Russia, a name that echoes with centuries of legend, power, and intrigue. Just saying the name makes you think of mystery, history, and grand things. It conjures up images of snow-dusted palaces, golden domes, and stories whispered through the ages. Landing in Moscow on a cool June afternoon felt like stepping into a whole new world. The air was crisp, and everything seemed both familiar and completely foreign at the same time. The Russian alphabet was on every sign, and the city was huge. Giant streets, big buildings, a feeling of something really important happening. It was as if every corner held a secret. Every building had a story to tell. The ride from the airport was a blur of birch trees and old Soviet buildings, each one seeming to tell stories from the past. The landscape shifted quickly, from the outskirts to the heart of the city, and I watched as history and modern life blended together outside my window. Moscow moves fast. It's always changing and making itself new, but it also has deep roots. The city pulses with energy, yet you can feel the weight of its past in every stone and street. I realized this trip was about more than just seeing famous places. It was about understanding the heart of the Russian people. Their resilience, warmth, and pride in their culture became clear with every smile and every conversation. Why Moscow and St. Petersburg? These two cities are the soul of Russia, each with its own unique character and rhythm. They're like two brothers or sisters. Moscow is the old heart, St. Petersburg is the fancy European side. One is bold and powerful, the other elegant and artistic. Together, they tell Russia's story, a story of old ways and new ideas, power and beauty. Their contrasts and connections reveal the true spirit of this vast country. I felt a strong pull to explore these two sides, to walk the streets where history happened. Every step promised a new discovery, a deeper understanding. The adventure was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see what stories Russia would share with me next. Red Square. Not many places in the world can truly amaze you like this. Stepping onto its huge cobblestones, I felt the weight of history. Parades, big speeches, revolutions. The red walls of the Kremlin glowed in the sun, showing Russia's lasting power. Inside those walls, churches, palaces, hundreds of years of secrets. Lenin's mausoleum looks very different. Simple, plain, a key spot from the 1900s. The quiet line of people outside reminds you of Russia's complicated past. My steps echoed on the old stones, mixing with tourists and locals. The air was filled with languages from all over the world, all quiet in respect. Standing there, feeling small next to all that history and big buildings, I felt a deep connection to Moscow. This was the Moscow I dreamed of, even more amazing than I thought. Red Square isn't just a place, it's the beating heart of Russia. And I was finally here. To truly know a city, you have to taste its food, the flavors, the smells, the way people gather around a table. These are the real stories of a place. In Moscow, every meal is a window into the city's soul, and every bite tells a story of tradition, family, and change. My first Russian meal, borscht, hot and colorful, like a warm hug in a bowl. The deep red beetroot, the swirl of sour cream, the earthy aroma rising with the steam. It's a dish that feels both comforting and exciting. A taste of Russian hospitality that welcomes you in from the cold. Then pelmeni and vareniki, dumplings made fresh, simple and real, tasting like home for millions. Each bite is soft and hearty, filled with memories of family kitchens and generations of tradition. Watching hands shape the dough, I realized how food here is a craft, passed down and cherished. Food became my way to connect with life in Moscow. Sharing a meal with locals, I found laughter and stories, even when words failed. Around the table, strangers became friends, and the city felt a little less foreign. My Russian was not very good, but a smile and spasibo, thank you, went a long way. Even the smallest effort to speak the language opened doors and hearts, and I was met with patience and kindness. In a busy market, a seller made me try smoked fish, laughing at how much I liked it. The market was alive with color and noise, the air thick with the scent of spices and fresh bread. Every stall offered something new, and every vendor had a story to share. Lost in the metro, a student kindly helped me find my way. The Moscow subway is a world of its own, grand, bustling, and sometimes confusing, but help was always close, and I learned that kindness is a universal language here. These moments showed me the city's warm, giving spirit hidden beneath its quiet outside. Beneath the serious faces, there's a generosity that reveals itself in small, everyday gestures. Away from the big squares, Moscow is a mix of old and new. Fancy houses next to Soviet buildings, quiet courtyards hidden from busy streets. The The city's layers tell stories of history and hope, of resilience and reinvention. Danilovsky Market, with all its food stalls, shows modern Moscow, old ways and new ideas side by side. Here, you can taste the past and the future in a single bite, surrounded by the energy of a city always moving forward. Through food and quick connections, I got a glimpse of the real Moscow. It's a city that reveals itself slowly, in flavors, in smiles, and in the warmth of its people. A city that's lively, changing, and truly special. Moscow is a place where every meal is an invitation, and every day brings a new discovery, if you're willing to taste it. At the south end of Red Square stands St. Basil's Cathedral, a burst of color, like a fairy tale castle made of stone. Its onion-shaped domes swirl with patterns and colors you won't see anywhere else. Inside, a maze of small chapels glows with old paintings, each spot feeling cozy and like a jewel. The air is full of hundreds of years of faith and art, a quiet spiritual place. Across from it, the gum department store shines with its glass roof and fancy hallways. It feels more like a grand walkway than a shopping mall. Sunlight, fountains, and a relaxed fancy feeling. Even if you don't shop, gum is a must-see in Moscow history and modern times under one amazing roof. I treated myself to the famous gum ice cream, enjoying the simple tradition. Watching people go by, stylish locals, families, tourists, I saw a city that embraces both its past and its future. St. Basil's and Gum, two famous places, two sides of Moscow's spirit, both unforgettable. There's something special about Russian trains, and the trip from Moscow to St. Petersburg is a classic. I got on the Sapsan, the fast train, and watched Moscow's spread disappear into endless countryside. Birch forests, open fields, and small villages flashed by, a picture of rural Russia. The steady click-clack of the tracks became a background sound for thinking. Inside, families shared snacks, and strangers traveled together in quiet friendship. I sipped black tea from a traditional glass holder, enjoying the real experience. As St. Petersburg got closer, the light became softer, and I felt more excited. I was leaving Moscow's strong energy for something more refined. The train was a gentle bridge between two worlds. It let me say goodbye to one part of my trip and get ready for the next. Russia's huge size became real on that journey, and my heart was ready for St. Petersburg. Arriving in St. Petersburg felt like stepping into another world entirely, as if I'd crossed an invisible border into a city shaped by dreams and ambition. If Moscow is Russia's old heart, St. Petersburg is its elegant European face, refined, open, and full of light. The contrast is striking. Moscow's ancient fortress-like energy gives way to St. Petersburg's airy boulevards and pastel facades. Peter the Great's dream city rises from the Neva's swampy ground, colorful palaces, wide streets, and graceful canals. It's a city built to impress, to rival the great capitals of Europe, and it succeeds at every turn. My first walk down Nevsky Prospect was unforgettable. The avenue buzzed with life, lined with amazing buildings, Singer House, Kazan Cathedral, and a parade of ornate facades that seemed to stretch on forever. Every corner revealed a new piece of grandeur. The city invites you to wander, to look up at gilded rooftops and sculpted balconies, to get lost in its endless beauty and history. A boat trip along the canals offered a whole new perspective. Gliding quietly past centuries-old mansions and under elegant bridges, I felt like I was drifting through a living painting. Palaces shimmered in the water's reflection, and fancy bridges arched gracefully overhead, each one telling its own story. The city feels like a song, almost a bit sad, especially during the white nights when the sun barely sets and the sky glows with a magical twilight. People fill the streets, savoring every extra moment of daylight. Walking along the Neva riverbank at midnight, the city glowed with magic. The water mirrored the lights, and the air felt charged with possibility. The golden spire of Peter and Paul Fortress shined across the water, a beacon of the city's imperial past and enduring spirit. St. Petersburg is like a living museum, a city of writers and kings, where every street corner whispers stories of revolution, poetry, and royalty. Its poetic spirit is impossible to resist, drawing you in with its beauty and its melancholy. Here, history and romance mix together, creating an atmosphere that feels both grand and intimate at the same time. And I was completely charmed, swept up by the city's grandeur, its stories, and its unforgettable light. You can't visit St. Petersburg without seeing the Hermitage. It's in the Winter Palace, and it's one of the world's biggest art collections. The palace itself is a masterpiece. Sea green and white, grand and huge. Inside, marble stairs and golden halls are dazzling even before you see the art. Paintings by Rembrandt, Da Vinci, Impressionists. The collection is amazing. I was especially touched by Rembrandt's Return of the Prodigal Son, a timeless story about forgiveness. Beyond the Hermitage, the Church of the Savior on Spilled Blood amazes with its mosaics and sad history. Every palace, every church tells a part of St. Petersburg's dramatic story. Art, revolution, and grand kingship all come together here. The city's treasures are endless, and each one makes it even more appealing. The true spirit of St. Petersburg shows itself in quiet moments. Walking along canals, I watched locals cross arched bridges, their reflections shimmering below. In a tiny bakery, a warm smile and a shared pastry became a memory I'll always keep. These small acts of kindness made me feel at home. The city's sounds are gentle water lapping, distant bells, soft talks in cafes. In the summer garden, I found peace among statues and laughter. During the white nights, crowds gather to watch the big bridges lift up, a magical experience shared by many. The city breathes with the opening of its bridges, a nightly celebration. St. Petersburg's beauty is found in both its grandness and its simple things. It's a place for quiet thinking and wonder, and it stays with you long after you leave. As my trip ended, I looked out over St. Petersburg's rooftops, tea in hand, my heart full. I arrived with dreams shaped by books I left with real memories, bright colors, deep history, unexpected warmth. Russia became more than just a name, it became a living, welcoming presence. The journey from Moscow's heart to St. Petersburg's soul was a journey through Russia itself. What I'll remember most are the small moments: borscht, a student's kindness, a baker's smile, the bridges lifting. These little things make up the real story of travel. Russia showed me a deep well of warmth, art, and spirit. If this story makes you curious, I'm happy. Russia deserves to be seen beyond what you hear in the news. Its beauty, history, and feeling are unforgettable. Thank you for joining me until our next journey. Goodbye for now. The adventure lives on in my memory.